Glaciers are melting, sea levels are rising, the weather is becoming more extreme, and we're seeing floods and droughts ever so often. There is no doubt the world is changing. Your customers are changing. You are changing. We are in strife. We risk not having much of a future, and yet I wonder, how much are we really doing about it? Corporations talk about optimizing resource use, saving energy and reducing greenhouse gas emissions to stop worsening climate change. They start to promote hybrid cars, plant-based detergents and new technologies. But how much do they really intend to change? And what do plants have to do with marketing?
99% of all the green products that are on the market today are in the less bad paradigm. We will not overcome the challenges that we face in this world by being less bad. Less bad will not solve global climate change. It will not solve hunger. It will not solve inequity. We need to change that paradigm to good. And it's hard for people to think of things that are truly good.
We've reached a point where this is not just about doing less bad, because doing less bad is not the same as doing good.
Today, lots of brands start claiming to have environmentally friendly products. But truly green products are a rare breed in the marketplace, and these are usually largely more expensive than other brands on the shelf.
Consumers have to make a decision. Do they want what we would call an authentic choice? A choice where the values of the product are mirrored by the values of the company? Or do they want to choose a green product from a company that is in business to sell green products?
People need to become aware over time that the future is going to be different.
In an oversold world, how can brands and customers become part of a solution?
It's one thing to make products that are incrementally more sustainable, a little bit more recycled content, a little less toxic chemicals. One of the largest challenges we face is changing that paradigm from being less bad to good. How do we create products that on a net, holistic basis are actually good for society and the planet, rather than simply less bad?
Today on Market, green, evergreen and truly green. Find out what treats and tricks brands have been pulling off to sell without giving up on profit, and why that's just not going to cut it anymore. Consumers, brands and corporations are at a crossroads. If all parts choose to continue down the road of half-truths and thinking we, as individuals, won't make much of a difference, we'll all end up driving on a dead end to a brick wall.
Most consumers, most of the time, and I count myself very often among them, think, well, what I might do is going to be a very, very small drop in the ocean, so I'll wait until others start to move. We can change our behaviors, but we need constant reinforcement as we do that. And I think that's the challenge with some of these environmental issues now.
In the 90s, we got into this idea of doing well by doing good, or doing the right thing, which was about improving the bottom line and improving your reputation at the same time, through energy efficiency, through less waste, through reducing the amount of toxic materials that went into the waste stream.
How can brands learn to communicate green to consumers without becoming a hard sell?
Being a green company has as much to do with the culture inside the company as it does with the products you sell. It has to do with employee ownership as much as it has to do with corporate transparency. So there are many, many lenses through which we think about sustainability, but it is a holistic, systemic concept, not an activity that you do, from time to time.
To be sustainable, you in part have to pursue this notion of environmental friendliness or green, but just because you're pursuing green solely doesn't necessarily make you sustainable.
The corporate social responsibility of brands is absolutely relevant. 70% of people say that they are influenced by their online communities in terms of how they perceive a brand, whether it be the environment, whether it be labor force conditions. These are very relevant issues.
Brands need to promote sustainable products with sustainable ideas.
We have built this whole consumer society on a very bad model, a model that doesn't value resources appropriately, is able to account for huge amounts of waste, and uses chemicals and processes that have toxic effects on people. And then, of course, the business that has these negative impacts is not held accountable for them. If you grow carrots and you use pesticides on your carrot field and you pollute the groundwater, you're not responsible. You don't have to pay to clean it up. The society as a whole is left with that damage. We need to create an economic landscape and a system of regulations that hold a business accountable for all of its externalities, and thus good products would be less expensive and bad products would be more expensive. Today we have just the opposite.
Brands have to work harder and harder. In previous years, it could be sufficient to almost exist within the marketplace. It was not as competitive. 10 years ago, if a global mobile network moved into the market, that was kind of exciting in its own right. That's no longer sufficient.
Businesses have to find a way of offering and communicating great green products while minimizing the sacrifices that consumers must make in order to buy and use those green products.
What brands used to do was sort of look at their positioning and develop a new format once every 5 years. Now it has to be a continuous process. You've got to continuously innovate in terms of making yourself competitive.
Bill Bernbach said, "The magic is in the product." Up next, find out how brands can put magic into their products and become sustainable. Some countries in the world use almost 2.5 million litres of water per capita each year. Gas emissions have risen dramatically in the past decade.
The path we're on is simply not sustainable. If you project the path we're on out into the future, you will meet with a very ugly result. We're getting signs every day. You look at the spill in the Gulf, oil all over the place. Hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes. I mean, the earth is beginning to rise up and say, hey, I've had enough. The question that we have in front of us is, given all the information and evidence we have, will we act on that because we know that it's the right thing to do? Or will we avoid making those difficult, tough decisions until it becomes too late?
Sustainability is sort of a leafy subject, and it's harder than saying, I'm green, da-be-da-ba-da-boop-boop-boop.
Sustainability marketing is one of those incredibly hot topics. If you go, I've got the greenest product ever, unless you have the science to truly back it up, you're running the risk of backlash. Because consumers, academics, local community activists, they're savvier than ever. They can see right through that.
Companies like Clorox and SC Johnson and Arm & Hammer are all entering or have entered the market with their own green products because they see increasing consumer demand as well as pressure from their stakeholders to be more responsible.
Only a very small percentage of consumers make their buying decisions primarily based on the environmental qualities of a product. Factors like availability, convenience, perceived product effectiveness, and price typically impede green purchasing behavior.
There is this disconnect between what consumers say they want and what they actually do. So for many, many years, consumers have been saying that they want to buy green products from good companies. What they're not stating is that there are a lot of conditionals. In other words, I will buy the green product if it comes from a brand I already know and trust, if I buy it already shop, if it works just like the other product I'm already buying, if it's at least as good as the other product, if it costs about the same, maybe even cheaper, and if it has some other benefit to it besides just being green. When you put those all together, that's a very high bar. And very few products have been able to clear all of those kinds of things.
The goal of green marketing communications should be to educate consumers in what ways green products provide practical consumer value.
The question of whether hybrid vehicles or battery-powered vehicles or just going to public transport or cycling everywhere, which is the right solution? These sorts of issues are really in people's minds, and it's confusing. And I think business has a role to play in making it a bit less confusing.
One of the first products is the Toyota Prius, because it's from a brand you know and trust. If you know Toyota, you buy it where you already buy cars. It works just like the other one does. It's a little bit different to drive, but you can really learn that in about 20 minutes. It doesn't cost the same, but most people don't write a check for a car. They usually buy it every month. Either they lease it or they buy it on credit. So the price differential isn't as important. And it's a very good car, and for some people it's a statement. It's about, it says I'm concerned about the environment, or I like the latest, coolest technology.
If done right, there is great opportunity for marketing green products to the masses.
If you're doing some great sustainability work, you have the right to say, if for no other reason than to signal both to employees, stakeholders, and potential business partners that, hey, you know what, I am a sustainability-oriented company that truly values the environment, truly values society, and as a result, on the type of company with which you want to do business. So you have this sort of ambidextrous challenge.
General Electric, for very many years, was pushing back on issues like, would they clean up the PCB and PPB pollution that they caused in the Hudson River? Now suddenly changed. Not only are they cleaning up the Hudson River, but they announced about 6-7 years ago their Eco-Imagination initiative. And that, again, I think is part of the challenge. Companies not only have to do this stuff, they have to communicate it in a powerful and meaningful way.
Brands need to find a way to go mainstream with green products. Sometimes, the success behind many green products is not their greenness, but the practical value they offer to consumers.
Sustainability helps create that unique value that companies in turn can use to out-differentiate their peers.
We want to be able to define what is different, what is compelling, what is exciting, what is the opportunity for the brand in the marketplace, and then bring it to life.
There's, luckily, lots of inspiring examples that we have around us.
Become a social brand and care about what people are talking about and connecting with them.
A lot of laundry detergents and everyday products are environmentally responsible, and they not only work as well as traditional products, but they're also healthier for my family. And so there are some brands that have managed to combine that. Clorox Greenworks in the United States, for example, where it's the Clorox brand, which is very known for being effective, and this product that's made out of 99% plants and minerals.
When Clorox launched Greenworks, they decided to do the ultimate product demonstration in order to show the world that green actually works.
Clorox is a wonderful client, always willing to look at new ideas. Greenworks is a product that they launched a few years ago that's very different because it's actually their first product that's 99% plant-based. The client wanted to do a campaign to launch it. As part of this campaign, we came to the client with an idea, let's do something that could really get noticed and get people talking about this around the launch. And our idea was to actually clean a really dirty area, a wall or the side of a building, but we wanted to clean the area off and create art. Most of the brands in the category, the work that they were doing really highlighted the fact that they were green products. So it really talked about being safe for the environment or being good and void of chemicals. But it was pretty much done in a very traditional way, very focused on product demonstrations. And we said, well, why can't we do a product demo